The Students' Representative Council at Wits University says it's launching a fund to help students who don't have the money to pay for their studies. The Wits SRC President, Nombulelo Chiya, joins me now. Nombulelo, good morning to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. What kind of fund are you setting up?
Thank you so much. Good morning to you. The kind of funding that we're setting up is the one that is going to ensure the students are able to come back and register within the institution because of different issues of financial exclusion that we've been facing in the previous years. So the fundraising of the SRC is in place to ensure that we try to assist students who are not able to get registered.
Where's the money going to come from? Are you asking for donations?
So the money is going to come from the public. The fundraising campaign of the SRC is not only a fundraising campaign, but it is a call for action. So the money is expected to come from all people, whether it be it students, be it the academic staff, the public and the private sector, the corporate partners, everyone and anyone who can be able to come in and put in something. And when people donate towards the fundraising campaign of the SRC, it is doubled by the institution. So we're currently aiming to raise 15 million, which is going to be matched by the institution, amounting to 30 million. So someone can come and fundraise or rather donate as little as 100 rands, which is going to be doubled by the institution, amounting to 200 rands. So we're here to call upon all people from the public, from the corporate sectors, from all areas of the country to come and donate towards the fundraising campaign of the SRC in assisting students being able to get registered.
Obviously, there's a need for student funding. We know this. Now, government will say that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme looks after quite a large number of people. It is a big program. Then there are some people whose parents are able to pay or their communities are able to help them, their families help them. How big is the missing middle at the moment? And there have been other plans, student loan schemes and things like that, but how big is the need at Wits University, do you think?
It's quite a big issue. The issue of financial exclusion affects each and every student. Even students who are funded by NSFAS find themselves in a situation where they are financially excluded if they're defunded by NSFAS or there's a shortfall that hasn't been paid by NSFAS. You find that someone also, we call them the missing middle, doesn't qualify to apply for NSFAS, but at the same time doesn't earn enough to be able to pay for their tuition fee. So the numbers that we're looking at are quite a big number. We're currently sitting at 9,000 students who are funded by NSFAS, and there's a number of students who are funded by private bursaries. And the big pool there by Wits University is people we call the missing middle, someone who cannot be able to qualify for NSFAS but don't earn enough to be able to pay for their tuition fees. So that's the number that we're currently looking at to be able to assist to come back and get enrolled within the institution.
Do you think government could do a little bit more? Government already spends quite a lot of money on higher education. It has to spend money, of course, on health and primary education too.
Yes.
Do you think government's spending enough on student funding at the moment?
I think the government can do much more. When you look at the issue of student loan, it's not a Wits issue, it's an entire country's issue. Wits University is currently sitting at 1.6 student debt, and I'm sure there's other institutions as well who are facing these current issues. So I do believe that in terms of putting much more effort, much more things can be done in terms of assisting students in being able to come back and get enrolled within the institution. The Wits University SRC comes in to do this fundraising campaign to be able to assist students who are already struggling, being funded by the government schemes or government bursaries. So it's a thing of government can be able to push more in terms of assisting with this crisis. It's a financial crisis where students cannot be able to complete their qualifications and go back to their communities and give back. It's not a Wits issue. It's an entire country's issue. We have a huge number of unemployment rates within the country. I think much more things can be done in terms of ensuring that these students are able to acquire their qualification and go back to their communities and give back. It's not a Wits issue. It's an entire country's issue. That's why we're currently saying that the issue of financial exclusion needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be something that we put collective action to, not only Wits SRC, but people of the public, but people from the private sector, as well as the government, also coming from the perspective of the public sector as well.
We normally see at this time of year when higher education institutions go back, and the schools are already back, but we all know that young people go back a little later. They go back normally in February for most of the higher education institutions. We often see protests, usually, not always, but usually about fees. Are you expecting that to happen at Wits again this year?
So at current moment, when you're looking at the issues of Wits, you find that each and every year there are issues of protest within the institution. And it's one and the same issues that we're dealing with, which is the issue of financial exclusion. Hence, as a Wits SRC, we're coming on board to say that let's come with this solution of having a fundraising campaign. But it's not a mandate that comes from me. I'm a representative of the students. My mandate comes from the ground. So we're coming with this current solution to say that at this current moment, let's look at different solutions and different approaches we can be able to look at. And everything else comes from the mandate. Everything else comes from the ground in terms of how are we able to move forward. But the main aim of the Wits SRC is to ensure that this fundraising campaign works, and we're able to ensure that we get as many students as possible to come back into the system. And everything else that comes afterwards, the mandate is simple, it comes from the ground.
It's now, I think, 10 years, and I remember so clearly when Fees Must Fall started, and it really did have, it sort of convulsed society. There was a big protest at the Union buildings, I remember very well. Do you think that much has changed for students since then? NSFAS is much bigger. It's had a few problems in the past. It seems to be running better now. We'll obviously find out as we get a little closer to the start of the academic year. Do you think life is better or easier for students now than it was before Fees Must Fall?
The year of 2025 marks 10 years since Fees Must Fall movement has started or has ended. But the main issue that we have is that the issue that was being called for even before is still a crisis even now. Yes, we can speak about the benefits that came from the movement, but the biggest crisis we have is we have a student right now who's sitting at home and cannot be able to come back within the institution because of the one and the same issue of financial exclusion. Hence, I say it's a financial crisis. It's an entire nation's crisis. To say that the issue that was dealt with or the issue that was being spoken about, the issue that was being addressed 10 years back is still a crisis even now. So it's a thing of, it's still an issue, it's still a crisis. We have a number of students who cannot be able to come back and get enrolled within the institution because of financial exclusion. So the issue of financial exclusion is still a crisis. It hasn't been addressed. So this, even with the fundraising campaign of the Wits SRC, it's a legacy project that we're planning to do because each and every year you have these issues of financial exclusion each and every year. But the thing of the legacy fund, we're aiming to raise 30 million to address the issues of registration because it is our current priority. However, we don't end, or rather we don't aim to end at 30 million. We're aiming for it to go even further, even after I've left to the SRC term, for the fundraising campaign of the SRC to continue to live even afterwards, because we need to look at sustainable solution, something that can be able to get the seal or the help towards the students even after I've left the term. So we're still facing the issues of financial exclusion even after 10 years. Fees Must Fall. It's still a crisis. It's still something that students cannot be able to escape. It's still something that students who are academically deserving to come back within the institution cannot be able to pass or go through.
Nombulelo Chiya, thank you very much indeed for coming in. SRC President at Wits University.